This is an It's Your Break production, so sit back and take a break. I am Jonathan Mertz, and I think right now is a very tough time for a lot of us. It doesn't matter who you are, what background you come from, times are tough. They are really, really tough. And I thought I need to bring people in and have an open dialogue. And I feel that we need to have open dialogue on questions and topics that are going on. And I'm bringing in Leo Mason, a longtime resident of Henry County. And I think you've lived all your life in Henry County, haven't you?
Yes.
And Leo, thank you again. We've known each other for a very long time. You've known my parents for a very long time.
Right.
And I appreciate it. And what I'm going to do with these questions, Leo, is I'm going to ask them because these are things I think everybody needs to know about and figure out how people truly view each other and how they see things. Because not everybody's going to see things the same way, and that's why I'm doing a series of conversations with people. And at any time, if you don't think these questions are the right questions to ask, tell me, and then tell me what I should be asking. Because I'm here to be a part of, to be able to listen and learn just as well as anybody else. And if there's any particular question that you don't want to answer or feel uncomfortable, we can just skip that too as well.
Okay.
It's going to be kind of easy to go here. So, you know, one of the big things, it's obvious that when people see you, you are this charismatic person. And for me, growing up, that's the person I've always knew. I didn't care what your skin tone was growing up. It was always, that's Leo. That's the guy that's always up there. He's performing on stage. He's singing his heart out, and he is just making this crowd come alive. And it's sad to say that we have people that see things differently. But growing up here in rural Kentucky, in where you currently live now, have you ever faced prejudice or racism?
Yes. Uh, just to give a little background, because I could go on and on, but see, it's I don't know. A lot of people know, some don't. I was born in 1951. Okay, around here, uh, in Henry County, racism was very, very real. My
Right.
dad, you're right. My dad was in the forefront of it. And and it was six of us kids. I'm the youngest of six, of course. Since then, I've lost three of my siblings, but my two oldest sisters, Dad put out in the forefront because as we was growing up, we could not go into restaurants in the front door. We had to go to the back door to get our food if we wanted it, or if we got food, we had to get it in the front door and leave. We could not sit down. We had a drugstore here in town with, you know, like the 50s, they had the bar stools with the ice cream stand and stuff. But we as blacks could not go into that drugstore and sit down. And at the same time, not wanted to be served. And of course, we always grown up at the black grade school on King Street in here in Eminence. And it was a struggle going back and forth for school because we had to walk from Suffolk Avenue in Eminence to King Street Elementary. Well, there was on a daily basis white students, white kids who were standing on the streets, and as we came by, we was pretty much forced, to get off the street. We was harassed, called names, but we lived through it. I think it's pretty much the fact that pretty much is that everything went on, but the burning and the looting. Because as blacks back then in this small town, we pretty much accepted it and moved on. We didn't like it, but I thank God for parents that said treat people the way you want to be treated, and that's what we tried to do. I mean, we were at the forefront, but we and it's paid off today. That's why I have no animosity. My philosophy is I forgive, but I don't forget, and that's
Right.
the way I stand right today.
That is an interesting philosophy to have. Not to forget the past and to learn from it. I mean, because if you forget it, you could say, "Well, I never did learn anything from it," and to be able to better myself or help somebody else better themselves.
Right.
And that's the way I see it. Are you seeing it the same way?
Yes. Yes. Sure am. Yeah.
So when you are faced with these adversities, whether it's somebody calling you the N word to your face or treating you differently, how did you handle those situations from a young man to somebody that's an older person now?
Well, it was pretty much a given that we was going to be treated like that. We was told. Of course, our parents told us that they never told us not to play with anybody. Just don't go into anybody's, the white people's houses. Uh,
Hmm.
and technically, Jonathan, we as this was a pretty athletic town. We sports town. So as we was growing
Yes,
up,
it is.
and I must say, a lot of the kids, the older kids, it's treated us because I was younger. Uh, it was weird, but we got along pretty good. Well, as long as we was on, the sports team we played, we got along fine. My classmates, because I graduated high school in '69, and we still stay close together, stay in touch. Uh, and a lot of, and to be honest, a lot of my white classmates, did not know what we was going through because we would go to certain of our friends' houses in the backyard, play football, play basketball, but we had to be gone before their parents came in from work, and that was the norm. That was the norm, and we kind of knew it, and we had to accept it. And I live right where the high school is now. The football field used to be right across from mom and dad's house. So we was right across the street. But they had those black tinted nets around the fence where we couldn't see the football game. And so
Really?
yeah, they had that. That's where the football field, the baseball field, everything was right there. But of course, I can understand, if you had to pay to get in. So, I guess they put those fences up so we couldn't see the ball game free, but it was tarped off where we couldn't. And of course, my brother-in-law and a lot of them, they played on that field. As I got older, of course, they built the new football field. So I played on the old baseball field, little league baseball. But then as time went on, because we had to stay at the black grade school to the eighth grade year, and then we went to the high school. Well, the only disappointment I had is they integrated the high school, if you want to call it that, and I had to leave at my seventh grade year and go up there. Well, the only disappointment I had, I didn't get to graduate from like all my sisters and my brother did. I missed out on my grade school graduation, but it's something else we had to deal with. But it was an upgrade, if you want to call it that. But we were so far behind book wise and learning, we had to catch up quick. And if you were slow and couldn't, we was in trouble. But that was back in the 50s and 60s. That was the norm. It used to be when my sister them was in school, they would block off the gym, black on one side and white on the other. Or if you had a black queen, you had to have a white queen. And it was those divides back in the day that it wasn't liked, but we had to accept it. So it makes you grow up. It makes you grow up quick, and you can either let it get you down, or you can deal with it and grow from it. And I must say, most of us in this community, I mean, it left scars on a lot of them, but most of us accepted it, and I have, back then that was the way it went. That's the way it went. And the thing about it, a lot of my band members that I have played with, I've been in quite a few bands and been to, and most of the bands I played in, I've been in the only black person in the band. And I was telling them what we went through, and they couldn't believe it. They said, "You went through that," but they were sheltered, and I must say they were sheltered from what we was going through with, and they was around. It was going on around them, but they just didn't know it, and so and they appreciate me a little bit more. I tell you, some of them
That's
places I
interesting.
played in, Jonathan, some of the places I played in, I didn't think I was gonna get out of.
I can only
Oh,
imagine. I can imagine.
yeah.
It, especially if you're playing with Mike Wisserman and them.
Yep, that was
So yeah, yeah. That's interesting. This is something that I never knew. I wish they would teach this, the culture and what happened in Henry County in the school classes in Henry County. Because
right.
man, it's interesting because you don't get to hear this, and even growing up, when I was in school, we were fully, integrated, and we didn't think
Right.
twice about the kids. I mean, we live across, there on Hillcrest. I mean, we were fully peppered down that street, and it,
Oh
it was
yeah.
so nice to have that, that things, Leo would, Lonnie would come over and play football, in the yard football with us. I mean, it was, we didn't think twice about it. But
No.
you go out in the county, and it's a different story because the
Woo.
city school, even now, the independent school there and the county school, they're totally different atmospheres.
Yes. Back when we played sports, when I was coming up, it wasn't the Bullet East and the, North Bullet, it was Shepherdsville. And that was a highly prejudiced area. And sometimes
Hmm.
we would have to dress on the bus before we could go on the football field because we weren't allowed to go in the locker room and stuff like that. And then we got called every name under the sun. So we just used that as energy and took it out on the players on the field. We just you used we used that as energy. But I thank God. I will say this: no matter what we went through in them, I do thank God I was raised up in Eminence, this small
Right.
town, because no matter what went on, it dissipated. It never went away, but it dissipated. And and now Saint and I say now, and of course a lot of them have passed away, but some of the same ones that did what they did when I was growing up, I'm friends with now. And
Huh.
it never comes up. I don't bring it up because there's no need. And and I've always been taught this: prejudice and hatred is not it's not built, you're not born with it, it's taught to you. And then if we was all raised up is all your parents can do is raise you to one point. Whatever happens after that, and whatever you take up, and whoever you with, and you go that way, that's on you. You know,
Right.
Can't, and I learned that a long time ago. So
That was going to be one of my follow up questions. Is how do you instill your values to your children of color who are going to be faced at some point, more than likely, with statistically speaking, with some type of somebody treating them based on their skin color? I mean, how did you teach them how to handle things and hope that they would handle those situations?
okay, you can believe I went through that. Uh, and of course, I got a couple of mixed kids, and then of course I got my
Hmm.
oldest son, Lion. And I would always tell them, there's gonna be adversity in life, and you don't have to accept it if you don't want to. But people are gonna judge you by the way you handle what is thrown at you. If you be nasty and go out and do what you want to do and do this, that, and the other, I don't care how you turn your life around. They gonna remember the bad things that you do. And my mom and dad taught us that. Said, Dad used to always say, if you make your bed hard, you got to live in it. And it took us a long time to realize what he meant. But as you get older, it comes to you. So even though I was mistreated, uh, my kids, they went through some of the same thing. I'm so glad they didn't have to grow up with what we grew up with. But I tried to explain it. I said, "You're going, it's a part of life.
Right.
They're going, somebody's going, it'll never go away. It's just how you handle it, and you can either take your fist and fight with it, or kindness is one of the best things in the world to stop a lot of this stuff. I always told my kids that if somebody don't like you or they mistreat you, that's their problem. That's not yours. You just smile, speak to them, and go on. And that's what I try to instill. Of course, now, Jonathan, kids don't play that anymore. They're gonna take up And coach, back in the
Oh
day,
yeah.
it was a lot of fist fights done back when we was growing up. But kids nowadays,
Right.
they're gonna do what they gotta do.
Oh yeah. It is. And you know, I can't speak on anything that you ever went through because there's nothing I can say that would be remotely similar to probably what you went through. Although
Right.
I do know how it is to be mistreated, I do know how it is to be viewed at a certain way when you don't have the certain same beliefs as somebody else. In those things being looked at a different way. But when it comes to being judged on my appearance, I really haven't had that problem, and it's hard. And that's the reason I want to have these conversations, because for me, not really ever going through those steps and putting myself there, I mean, there's no way I can explain it or even try
Right.
to truly relate. I can say, oh, I can kind of understand what you're going through. I can visualize it, but I can't really say that I've ever been through it or truly become an empathetic on it, because you can't really truly put yourselves in that situation.
Right.
You want to try to have that empathy, but in a lot of these cases you're only be able to do sympathizing. But you with your actions you can show true empathy. In my opinion, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. Well, on the street we was raised up on, cause Suffolk Avenue, like I said, right behind the high school. That was of course we had like Suffolk Avenue. We had we called it Baptist Road then, but it was West Lawn Street. And then the blacks had their areas where pretty much was predominantly black. But down from where I lived on Suffolk Avenue, there was a lot of white families that lived down through there too. But they was treated pretty. They was considered the lower class whites that lived.
Hmm.
So they lived down from us, and they was mistreated. Just as bad as we were. And matter of fact, we all played together. We didn't see color. We I had hand me downs for 5 years. From my brother for 5 years. So we didn't worry about seeing somebody dressed up. Sometimes we envied them because we would wish that we had it. But and I look back and I felt just as sorry for those white Caucasians, let me call them, friends of ours that was being mistreated just like we were, just because they didn't have what the other neighborhoods had that they couldn't go to. And my sister them, they would go and play with them, and their parents would have them to come in and eat, and and people say, "Oh, you only eat in that house? You gonna do that?" That's the way we was raised up. And
Oh yeah.
it really makes me happy where I am now. I mean, I could have let it ruin me. Of course, my wife, and
Right.
matter of fact, she's your mom's cousin, and
Yes, that's
so
true.
yeah, and so I could when we got married, man, my life was threatened. Of course, that was still in the back, and that was in the '80s, and so but it still wasn't accepted, and it's still touchy now, but I mean it's so much biracial stuff going on now, and it's just one of them things,
Oh
you
yeah.
just accept it and go on. So, but it was a learning experience, and I told Brenda, my wife, the other day when all this rioting and all of this stuff going on, I said, the sad thing about it is it hurts because it brings back feelings of what me and the blacks in our community was raised up in, even though we didn't have the rioting and the looting and stuff, but the mistreatment that we had, it just brought back memories, and it looked like, and you probably heard it for years. It's a recycle thing. Look like ever so often something comes back to the forefront. And what's going on now?
Oh yeah.
And I don't go along with the looting, and the burning, and all of that. That's not a part of a peaceful, protest. But sometimes you gotta take a hammer and hit something hit a nail on the head for people to wake up. And I don't condone it, but you know,
There there is a parable in the Bible where Jesus got mad of them trying to make profit and money off the church, so he flipped the table over. Now that is him,
right,
and it wasn't the entire community doing it; it was him doing it, and he didn't steal any of the money. But you're right. Sometimes just to make people wake up, you have to have a little action. And I don't
right,
necessarily agree with the rioting and the looting for sure by any means. But there are other things to get attention. That would make people wake up.
right,
And I'm glad you started to transition in that, because that's where I'm going next, because that is in the forefront. Right down the road in Louisville, Kentucky. We have the Breonna Taylor thing, and then
right,
it's just it's right in the thing of it. And law enforcement is the big thing that they're focused on. And as you know, law enforcement is established to enforce the laws governed by the cities, states, counties, and to the governments. That's what they are. They're also a source of protection, but they're more there to enforce the laws when it's been reported or sought to be broken. And I want to
Right.
transition to some questions. What is your current view of law enforcement in general?
You know, I'm in a
And you can
catch
feel free not to answer these questions. I don't want to put you on,
now,
put
but
you in an
no,
uncomfortable
I'm
position.
not. I'm in, in a catch-22 position. Back in the day, we had some pretty bad law enforcement agency, and Dad, was part of being mistreated by them because he was heavy in trying to get the civil rights movement going around here for us to feel free. Uh, Now there's bad cops, and we've had them in Eminence. I'm not gonna say, and there's good cops. And as you know, I've been on the city council now and here in Eminence. Uh, this is for 12 years. I can say right now, because back then most of the policemen were from this era, so they knew everybody. So we got treated pretty good, but some of them was pretty nasty too. But police in general, they're between a rock and a hard place, to be honest with you. Because there's good and bad in any organization. I don't care what it is. And one bad apple spoils it, and I've heard it all my life. Can spoil the whole basket. And the few bad cops that have done and doing what they're doing now has got these good cops now in the position that they scared to do anything. So first
Right.
thing they are gonna do, they want to protect themselves, and I don't blame them because they got families and wives too. I don't agree with a lot of what everybody does, and I have seen some dirty police work. I'm not saying here. I've been into some of it myself. But I it's hard. Some people, oh, you taking up for police. I'm taking up for the good police. Because we all
Right.
need guidance. We all need somebody. Because first person we call, somebody break in our house or we get shot at, is we gonna call the police. You know, we we have weapons here at the house, but I don't want to use them. And I'm afraid that if I shoot my gun, then it backfire on me. But it
Right.
hasn't been used for so long. But it's a chance. It's a chance you take. I swear. But I got to give our cops here the props. I know a lot of people in them just don't like them. Because if they do their job, they're not going to be like. You know,
Right.
but but I can say, and like I said, been on city council for 12 years. I didn't run. I'm not running again this time, but uh, I can say the bad ones have gone, and we did out who I consider bad. But overall, we got a good law enforcement agency here in them. Now, I can't speak for everybody else. I can't speak for any other community but mine. And because I don't want to say, oh, he's against police or he's for all the police. I'm just, really want to give our police department some props. And I get along with them fine. I've had run-ins with some of them, and some of them still on the force. But like I said, I'm a father first and a city official second. So sometimes they have to take up, and it was worked out, and I've still moved on. So but you got to stand up for yourself, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
I was going to ask, because you kind of said that you had some involvement there, but I was going to ask if you actually had any negative experiences with the police,
Yes,
personally. So,
yes,
and
I
you kind
have.
of went over that a little bit, and I didn't know if you wanted to explain any situation. And then I would also
No,
like to follow
actually,
up with.
yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, actually, one I did. I've had a few bad experiences, but one that stands out to me more, and the policeman. I wasn't even on council. Policeman's not even on the force now, but I always played music. Most of the time, we play music out of town, and a
Hmm.
lot of times that I would travel out of town, I would be by myself, coming in late, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because you know how bars and things are, and I'd be coming through town. And I had a van with at that time I was playing drums, so I had my drum set and everything in the back of my van and everything. So I go through town, I get stopped, and I was wondering, and it was on the side street, and I got thinking. He said, and I got questioned, and that's what I was doing out there late. That's why I've been playing music, and you can look at my band. And then I heard one tell the other one, he's okay. I thought he was a Mexican. That hit me
That's
bad,
interesting.
and it still does. Yeah, yes, sir. And at that time, Jonathan, most Hispanic people was related to as having vans. And so I
Right.
guess they thought I was out that late, that there was a lot of us out doing something wrong, I guess. But I did hear that, and it just blew me away. Damn, you know, whew. But and I've had a few other incidents, getting stopped coming in, and I got stopped coming from Louisville one night playing, and I got stopped in Shelbyville. And I swear to God, you thought I done killed somebody. And it was cold. It was in the winter. And I mean, cops came from everywhere. And they looked at me and got me out of the car, stood me out there, gave me a breathalyzer test. Well, it didn't work. He said it didn't work. By the time all of that got started, I know it was 6, 7 police vehicles and state police there. I'm standing out in the cold. He's waiting for other officers to get there so he could use their breathalyzer test. Well, after 4 or 5 tries, he got mad because none of them would blow what he wanted it to blow. And my wife told me before I left, don't you be drinking or anything because you're out of town, and thank God I listened to her. But he did
Right.
follow me. He did follow me from the ramp off the expressway all the way to the radio station in Eminence, and then turned around and went back. He just was waiting for me to make a bobble. And that's just a couple of other incidents that I've had. And they were part of life, some, but it makes you leery. Uh, it does, and I'm still skeptical of days now, and I don't go nowhere near what I used to go back in the day. I'm at the age now. If I'm not playing music, I'm mostly home or with family. It doesn't bother me to go anywhere anymore. So I'm pretty much stable.
If there was anything you could do with law enforcement to make them improve, the relationships with the communities, or even how they proceed. And I know you may not know a whole lot about law enforcement, but just from an outsider's view, of what's going on in your mind, is there anything that you say, hey, if they just did this, they might have a chance of getting through or having better results?
And I know with our police, and I think it's probably with every police department around, because we get this law, this book every year, every 2 years when we run for council. They have a meeting in Lexington for all city councilmen, all law enforcement to come to. It's like a 3-day seminar, and everything lawful. I know, like for example, mayor in Louisville, and everybody's hollering for him to fire the cops, fire the cops. Well, I didn't realize until I got on city council, you cannot fire a regular policeman. You can fire the chief of police, but you can't fire regular, because it's a state statute that in order for you to get rid of a regular policeman, he has to, you have to have proof without the yin yang. So what I was saying, I know ours go to a sensitivity class, how to deal with people, what to do. And I think what would help is ever so it don't have to be every month, maybe twice a year or something. The policemen have, get the gym or something, call the community in, and let the community ask questions.
Right.
Because I know as a councilman, as a councilman, I get every time you go out, well, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it? And I tell all of them, and I try, and I do it because I say, come to the council meeting. It's open for everybody. I go to City Hall. They have it's a thing called the Open Records Law. They have to show you what's on those books, and if they don't, then the city can be sued. So, but our cops, like I said, I do a good job, but they have to go to sensitivity classes every year, and then, like I said, community meetings. If the people got a gripe, just it don't have to be every policeman, police representative, some to answer their questions, and I think that's one thing that could help. uh, You know, I know for a small community, it's probably easier for somebody, but I know in Louisville they do that sometimes. They have those community gatherings, and have the community in certain areas to come out and express their opinions and ask questions. So don't always work, but
Well, Leo, I thank you so much for coming on and helping me out. I mean, this hopefully lets people see a little bit more of what's going on, and to get other people's opinions and personal experiences, because that's really, I think, where it counts. Education is where it's at.
right. Well, I want to thank you for asking me to be on here. I hope I didn't rabble off too much, but
Nah, you're good.
I appreciate you having me on, and I just pray. I'm at the point now, and a lot of times I put things in the hand of the Lord. I say, some things we just can't handle by ourselves. So, but I want to thank you again for having me, and I appreciate it, Jonathan.